Well, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is Michelle Miller, and this is a virtual resume writing tips slash webinar that I'd like to present to you. Now, first, out of respect for your time, we want to make sure to get started as soon as possible. But before that, just want to give you a quick overview of my credentials so you don't think I'm just some crazy lady doing a virtual presentation. So I have 11 years experience as a recruiter for a staffing agency where I recruited, interviewed, fixed the resumes for, and prepped them for interviews over hundreds and hundreds of candidates. So I did that over a period of 11 years. And then I moved on, and for the last 5 years, I have been working in higher education where I'm actually working with college students and college grads, getting them acclimated into their careers. Presently, I am the Director of Career Services at a university in South Florida. So this is just kind of my giving back and just trying to help folks out. So with that said, that's me in a nutshell. So let's pretty much get started. The first thing I want us to understand is when you're seeking employment, remove the I'll do anything thoughts or any job or I'll take anything. Sometimes people are kind of, for lack of a better word, desperate, and they're at the point where I'll do anything. If you have that thought, you're not narrowing in on anything. So that's sometimes why some people have difficulties. You have to be focused on something and own it. Okay? So focus on your skills, previous experiences, jobs, educational training, and certifications, as well as if you have any licensures. Sometimes people have certificates and things, and they don't realize that. And by the way, the number one transferable skill is customer service. Okay, in every industry, and I don't know if anyone else has ever said this. That's my thing. I'm saying that. And just let it be known now that if all the information I give you is just information that I have experience on, information I've seen and known. So that's where I'm getting all this from the years of experience I have. But customer service is the number one by far transferable skill no matter the industry you're in. And I used to joke about it and say, hey, if you're in mortuary science, you don't need it, but that's not true. While you're dealing with dead people have living family members that you still have to deal with, so you still need customer service. All right, so you are more likely to get a job when you match the employer's needs with your job description. I'm going to repeat that. You are more likely to get a job when you match the employer's needs and job description. All right, so that's super important. How to get started. This may sound weird, but to get started, the first thing you need to do is create a professional email with your name. Do not use nicknames, okay? And be mindful of your social media accounts, your Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and things like that, because when you're searching for a job and you send a resume out, they are looking at simple things like your email address. They'll judge you by your email. If it's sexybooty24, then sexybooty24 just won't get a job. So be mindful of that. Make sure you're doing that. That's 101, number one. Also, your social media pages. Make sure you have presentable photos on there because employers are nowadays checking it. They are going there. All right, so we're in the evolution of technology now. Everything's on the computer. Most of you who are applying for jobs, all you're hearing is go apply on our website, go on our website, go online, go online. The days of walking into some place and handing them an application or your resume have pretty much come and gone. So most employers are now requesting resumes and applications electronically, as well as they're searching for you online to see what you're doing, okay? Now evaluate your voicemail as well. Simple and professional. Say your full name. Now, I have a testimony with this because when I worked as a recruiter, I used to call people to call them in for interviews, and I'd hear things like, yo, 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 you know who this is? No, I don't know who this is. How about you say your name? So I know I have the right person for the job. So I would hang up on things like that. So say your name. Try not to have, and the funniest one I've ever heard was someone who recorded their voicemail, I guess in the car, because in the background I heard someone ordering from McDonald's or Burger King. They're like, hey, can I get a number 4 with a Coke? And that's what I heard on the voicemail. of the person. So they were probably recording it in the car next to someone who was ordering food. So make sure you're recording it in a quiet place. Alert others in your home or whoever answers your phone that you will be getting calls from employers. Here's another testimony with that. I once called someone, and a little girl answered the phone, or a baby. I don't know if it was a little girl. It was a baby. A little 2 or 3-year-old, and answered the phone. And I'm like, is mommy there? And she just went on and told me about her toys and what's for dinner, and she's talking to the point where I just hung up. So mommy or daddy or whomever missed out on that opportunity. It was a long time ago. But my point is, just make sure everyone knows. And another one that's happened recently, someone answered the phone and we're telling them we're calling in regards to a job, and they say, oh, she's already at work. She has a job already. So let everyone know, okay? People miss out on job opportunities because of voicemails and bad telephone etiquette. That's super important. So what's the purpose of a resume anyway? Let's talk about that. Let's dive into that. So while most people are looking for jobs, you have to understand that you need to go through channels to get a job. You don't just get jobs, okay? You have to do certain things. And one of the things that needs to be done, especially today, is to submit a resume. Now, your resume is your key marketing tool, and the physical presentation of your resume makes a huge difference. All right, if it looks like a menu, if it looks like a flyer, if it just looks like a piece of paper with random words, then you're not getting that job. You're not getting a phone call. You're not getting anything. All right? It's used to promote you in the best possible light. And if you see on the screen there, I highlighted you and I have it in bold and caps, because sometimes people highlight the companies they've worked for, or they highlight the schools they've attended on their resumes, which is a no-no. Okay? So don't let the schools and the jobs or the name of the companies stand out while your job title, your job descriptions, and everything about you is kind of faded in the background. All right? It also allows employers to estimate your ability to perform in their position. Remember, they're looking to get a job done. If your resume shows that you've either A, done that job before, or you're capable of doing it, then you are the person for them. It also focuses on the job description and your qualifications, which at the end of the day, that's what an employer wants to see. All right, so always remember, the main focus of a resume is to gain an interview, not for you to get a job. Okay? We're getting there about the job, but right now the resume is to get you an interview. Now, there are 3 types of resume formatting. You have chronological, which lists your employment history from most recent first. So that's in order, numerical order. And I always say backwards, chronologically backwards, because when we count chronologically, we're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where this is you start with 6, your 6th job, and then you go backwards. So on the screen, I have 2014 to present, 2011 through 2014, and then 2008 through 2011. We're going backwards. And that also goes for your education, all right? Sometimes people say, oh, no, it's a higher degree. For instance, the university I work for, we have a physical therapy assisting program, which is an associate degree. And I have quite a few people who have their bachelor's degree already, and now they're changing careers. They're coming back for PTA, which is an associate degree program, and they're tempted to put their bachelor's degree that they got in 1984 first, and then put the associates because they're thinking, oh, it's, the level of the degree. No, you got that umpteen years ago. What you're going to do is put your associates first, that you're just getting now, and then you put the bachelor's beneath it. Looks weird, sounds weird, because that's not traditionally the way it's done, but it is what it is, okay? Now, the functional focuses on your skills, your capabilities first, then the jobs. So, for instance, if you have a background in customer service, sales, and marketing, you're going to highlight your customer service skills, your sales abilities, and your marketing, and you can do them all separately. And beneath that, then you'll put the companies you work for, all right? Or we have the third version, which is combination. That includes both chronological and functional. Combination is recommended. That's my format. That's how I do all resumes, because in my opinion, we need a little of both, okay? So now, this eye-popping screen here where you see a good 20 different versions of resumes, there are many, many, many different ways to do your resume. There's no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't let anyone, including myself, tell you that your resume is supposed to be like this or supposed to be like that or must be like this or must be like that. People have a tendency of saying that. I don't believe in it. I don't work with it that way. Because resumes, and I need you guys to listen to me carefully, resumes are heavily based on opinions. Okay? Just like our personalities differ, when the person is looking at your resume, you don't know what kind of day they're having, what kind of personality they have, what they like to see, what they don't like to see. So your resume can be different and effective, okay? So don't let anyone tell you, oh, it's supposed to be like that or it's supposed to be like this. Granted, there are certain rules that need to be followed. There are some that look more attractive than others. We'll get into it later, certain things that you shouldn't do. But don't let anyone tell you, it has to be one way. No, it doesn't have to be one way. There are many different ways. But there are certain things like these photos. I'm putting X's over them. At no time here in the United States should you submit a resume unless you are going for a modeling position. There are a few jobs out there that do require seeing you physically. That's totally understandable. But the norm out there, traditionally we do not put photographs on our resumes. In different countries, they do. So it's a catch-22. If someone's coming here from India, in India, they put their photos, they put their date of birth, they put their marital status, they put how many children they have. And by the way, all that information is illegal for an employer to ask you. Therefore, it does not go on your resume here in the United States. Okay? So at no time do you put any of that personal data on there, because those are things that can be used against you for discrimination reasons. So moving right along, let's talk about some resume facts. The average amount of time that an employer spends scanning your resume is about 15 to 20 seconds. That's always been debatable. At one point I heard 8 seconds. At one point I heard 20, 10, 15. Whatever it is, they can throw it out there. I'm going back to the logics of what I used to do and what I know people do. 15 to 20 seconds to scan your resume. That means you must have eye-catching information to get their attention within the maximum amount of time, which is 20 seconds. Less is more. Have a balance of having just enough information to draw the interest of an employer while leaving room for you to further explain during an interview. So, those people who have 5-page resumes because they have every single word they could think of in it, you're not going anywhere with that. Okay? So less is more. Put less information, but be concise about it. All right? Keep only information that's clear, simple, and that supports your ethics and your message. And just to talk about support your ethics and your message, make sure the information you're putting is genuine and true, and that you didn't just copy and paste it from someplace, or you saw it on somebody else's resume and said, oh, that sounds good, I'm going to put it on mine. If that's not you, don't put it. When I do resumes for my students and my graduates, I say to them, give me 6 adjectives that describe you. And that's how I decide to make each individual's resume. I'm not going to say to them, I'm just going to say you have great communication skills and you can multitask and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, this person can't. So just be careful with that. And understand that employers are looking for key words. Keywords are really big right now. And just on a side note, there are softwares out there that when you upload your resume online, companies have softwares to find keywords on your resume to see if you qualify for the position. So if your resume doesn't have those keywords, they may never see it. So be mindful of that. Now, let's talk about resume myths. There are many, many, many of them out there. Now, some of the top ones are, a resume needs to be 1 page. Negative. That is a myth. If you have enough sufficient information that is relevant, and I want you guys to remember that word, relevant, where you have a 2-page resume, it's okay. If you're a new grad and you've never had a job before, you shouldn't have a 2-page resume. If you're a seasoned professional who's been in your industry or working for the past 15, 20 years and you have a two-page resume, understood. It's also tricky if you're someone who has had many, many jobs. That's something tricky that I work with people one-on-one with, because the more jobs you have, the worse you look, to be honest, because it looks like you can't keep a job. And sometimes I've met a woman who just had bad luck. Companies were closing. She was laid off. Nothing was her doing, and she had like 6 jobs. It was just, in a span of 3 years. It was just bad luck. But the one-page thing is a myth. Just understand that if you have 1 or 2 lines that goes to a second page, that does not qualify for a 2-page resume. Figure it out. Change the font, take something out. If you can fill up a quarter of the second page, then it's legitimate. All right? Next thing, you must have an objective. No, you don't have to have an objective. And I'll give you 2 examples where you need one and where you don't need one. You are a registered nurse. First and foremost, if you are, that is a job title. That is a licensure. So after your name at the top of the page, you should have RN. What do you need an objective for if they see you're an RN? On the flip side, you are a med-surg nurse and you have RN up there, but you're really, really looking to get into OBGYN. Well, I would put there in an objective that you are seeking an OBGYN nurse position. Why? We spoke about keywords before, right? So if you upload your resume and they're looking for an OBGYN nurse and you don't have OBGYN anywhere, because remember, you don't have that kind of experience. You have med-surg and you're just looking to get into OBGYN, throw an objective up there that you're seeking a position as an OBGYN nurse, and there you have it, your keyword. It's there once, but at least it's there, OBGYN. If you are a business major and you can do various things, you can surely put an objective there. But be mindful, sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't. The more information, the better. No. The more information, the more likely it goes into the garbage. Too much. Okay? You don't want to overkill. Also, you need to leave some information for your interview. If you say it all on your resume, there's no point in the interview. What are you going to say during your interview, right? References belong on your resume. At no time do they belong on your resume. Your references can be on a separate sheet of paper. And remember, you give them when it's requested. All right? You don't have to volunteer and give your references. If the employer requests references, you give them out. And you can have, again, that just on a separate sheet of paper. Every job you've ever had needs to be on there. No! No way. The general rule is going back about 10 years. If you have to go back further, so be it. Not a huge deal. But you don't need your first job. For instance, me. At 16 years old, I worked at McDonald's. That's not on my resume, and it shouldn't be on yours. Okay? A good resume will get you the job. No. No matter how good your resume is, it's not guaranteed to get you the job. You can try your best, but understand no matter how good your resume is, John Doe over in the corner has an even better resume. So you can have that excellent resume. Yes, it can get your job, and maybe it won't, but just make sure it's good no matter what. Now, resume don'ts. Do not exaggerate or fabricate. Let's cut to the chase. Don't lie. Don't make it up. It's not worth it, okay? Do not use creative fonts, color styles, paper artwork, or photos. If you are a graphic arts major and that's the kind of job you're looking for, knock yourself out. But I don't think we have any listing right now, possibly. But otherwise, do not do fancy stuff, okay? This is a professional document, so don't get fancy. Don't use fonts less than 10 or more than 14. 14 can be your header. If you're going to put 14 font on there, I would say only maybe your contact information at the top. Why not less than 10? Because that's too microscopic. And, I mean, face it, a lot of people do wear glasses. You don't want them straining to read your information. The most common number font is 12. The lowest I ever go is an 11. So between 11 and 12, you're safe. You can do your header, which is your contact information, at a 12.5 to 13. That's my theory. It's a well-known between 10 and 14 between resume writers, but I prefer to stick with my between 11 and 13. Do not copy and paste information from somewhere else or use the same information for each job. This is very dangerous. Number one, you can fall into a plagiarism. Bad. And number two, you can also copy and paste something that the font is different. And I have a keen eye for different fonts. I can tell clearly on someone's resume once I open it the different fonts they have on there. So if you're copying and pasting from somewhere else, you may not notice it, but the font may be different, the size may be different, or the type of font may be different. Give personal data. We spoke about that before. Marital status, religion, physical appearance, children, nationality, hobbies or interests. Yes, hobbies and interests, we don't care about that. What you do in your own time is what you do in your own time. An employer cares what you could do for them. So if your hobby, unless it's relevant, you know, if you are into sports medicine and your hobby, for instance, is training high school kids to do something or another, it's relevant. Okay, I got it. You can put that as volunteer or something. But if it's not relevant, if your hobby is cooking, that has what to do with the employer, okay? And use MS Word or Internet templates. Resume templates, I'm telling you, are not your friends. While they are there to help those who have nothing, understand that the people who created resume templates, to be quite honest, they could care less whether you find a job or not. That has nothing to do with them. They just found something that people need that they could make money off. And some of the templates, and then we'll see some later, are hideous. So that's a no-no. Now, speaking of a template, this is directly from Microsoft Word. If you see at the top of the page, it says Microsoft Office User, straight out of MS Word. I placed this here. Now, with that said, why start typing a quarter of the way over, right? They want you to start typing here. We read from left to right. Generally speaking, your margin should be 1 inch in, 1 inch out, just like a piece of paper, a notebook paper. You should start typing the same way we start writing on notebook paper, not way over here, okay? In additional, the margin, here it is, 1 inch to the left and 1 inch to the right. See, I X'd out interest and references here as well. We have the header, contact information, objective, experience, all here. Education's down here, all right? Interest and references do not need to be included. So bear in mind, when you are starting a resume, do not start a quarter way over. Start as if it's notebook paper, all right? Now this one, again, Microsoft User. Same Microsoft template. Now, to me, this looks more like some kind of flyer, poster, or invitation, not a professional resume. And back to what I said about graphic arts, if you're going to use something creative, I don't find this quite creative at all, so this wouldn't even work for graphic arts, okay? They're not too bad starting here, but the whole makeup of this is just nonsense. And the employer would have to lean the paper to the side, because where it says Microsoft Office User, that's where your name is meant to go. Why is your name sideways? We don't look this way. That's why I have these eyes looking over there. We don't look this way. We'd have to turn the paper to the side to read your name, your address, and phone number. That's nonsense. All right? So I have the word header that popped up. So resume components. Not everyone's resume will have all components on it. FYI, if it's not relevant to you, don't put it, okay? Some things are mandatory for all resumes. So let's talk about different components that go on resumes. The header, contact information, that goes on every single resume, and I have seen people send out a resume without their names. No kidding. I've seen resumes without phone numbers. No kidding. So how am I supposed to call you? What is your name? So that is like super important. 101. First thing you do is you put your name, your address. You don't have to put the full address. You could put the city, and state you live in. And the reason why that's important, I'll give you an example down here in Florida. I don't know if there's anyone from Florida listening, but if you live in Fort Lauderdale and there is a job in West Palm Beach, but the company is based in Fort Lauderdale, they're hiring for West Palm Beach, and you didn't read that ad properly, and you live in Fort Lauderdale and you apply for that job, if I see that resume come over that you live in Fort Lauderdale, I'm not calling you because my job is in West Palm Beach. I'm not wasting your time. I'm not wasting my time. So it's very important so the employer knows where you are. Objective, we spoke about that before. Sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't. Professional summary and qualifications. This is an intro to you, and every resume I write, I believe should have a professional summary or qualifications. There are other things to call it. You can call it highlights, qualifications highlights. It just depends on your individual situation, what you can make it. But that's your selling point, and why that's important is every job has a job description, the kind of candidate they're looking for. And I suggest to everyone, read the job description, and as long as the job description fits you, put the things that they are looking for in your summary. Don't plagiarize. Don't do it the exact same way. Like if they say they're looking for someone who can multitask, fast learner, and good communication skills, don't you dare write you can multitask, you're a fast learner with good communication skills. You can put all three components in, but not the way they have it. Mix it up a little bit. Your educational background, that is a must. Relevant coursework. Now this is something like for a new grad or someone who has the educational background but doesn't have any hands-on experience. That's when that's used. Your skills, I prefer to use skills for like language skills if you're bilingual or trilingual, and your technical skills, which means your computer skills. Experience and or employment history. And I have and or because you can have both. I'll give you an example, for instance, physical therapy assisting. Say before you became a PTA, you were a bartender, but the only experience you have is bartending. So we're going to put whatever clinicals you did during your PTA schooling as your experience, and under your employment history, you're going to put your bartending so it shows you have work ethic, okay? Every employer wants to know that you have work ethic, so you're going to put both. Military experience, that's self-explanatory. If you're not military, you don't put it. Licensure and certifications, also make sure that it's mindful. If you are a certified nursing assistant, you have the certification under there or the licensure that you're a licensed CNA. And what if in your past life you have you're a certified truck driver? I'm just making that up. You can omit that truck driver part because it's not relevant. You're looking for CNA, so also be mindful with it. And know the difference between licensure and certifications as well. A big one is CPR. If you have CPR, no matter who you are or what your background is, CPR is something important you should put on your resume. Just about every company has to have people on site who are certified in CPR. So that's a plus for you. You're one less person that they have to train in that. For them, you're an asset. Awards and accomplishments. If you have them and they're relevant, go ahead and put it. If you got good attendance in high school, no thank you. You know, put something that's relevant that you have. Memberships and affiliations, super important. That's the sisterhood and brotherhood when you have memberships and affiliations. And that's a networking. Sometimes when you're in certain organizations and the person looking at your resume, maybe they're in it too, they're intrigued about it, they may call you just because of that. I have a graduate once who was hired because he was in a particular organization, and the person he interviewed with, it was a doctor actually, the doctor was the treasurer for that organization in South Florida, so he lucked out. If you have any internships or externships, if you have volunteer experience, if you've done any seminars, if you say, for instance, if you are in mental health counseling or something along that line, they do a lot of seminars, and those are huge in their industry. Okay, so remember, your resume is your first impression, all right? So first impressions aren't only in person. Your resume represents you. Keep that in mind. Your resume is your first impression. It can be altered to fit the position. So with that said, You don't have to send the same exact resume to every position. Tweak it a bit. If one position wants more customer service, then you put customer service first. If another position wants someone who has some computer skills, highlight that. So you have to tweak it to fit the position, which means read job descriptions carefully. As long as the information is accurate on your resume, you're good to go. If you work for a staffing agency or a staffing firm, identify them as your employer. People don't understand this. It's not explained to them, and it messes them up all the time. If you are working for ABC Staffing, and ABC Staffing sends you to DEF Company, and you work there for, say, a couple of months, and after that, they send you to XYZ Company. On your resume, you are not listing DEF and XYZ as two companies you've worked for independently. You are listing your employer as ABC Staffing. Beneath it, it's safe to list the companies that you've attended, and that's something that I can consult you with. You'll see my contact information at the end on how to do that. But the reason why that's super important is if you complete an application somewhere, you are signing and telling them, giving them permission to check your references before they offer you a job. Okay? So if they call DEF or XYZ company to get an employment verification on you, both companies are going to say, never heard of you. You've never worked here. Because technically, while you went there, you physically went there and you physically worked there, you were not an employee of theirs. Human resources at those companies do not have you on file as being a physical employee, but ABC Agency does. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Have someone with hiring, recruiting, resume writing experience look at your resume before sending it to an employer. Now, this is a tricky one. You may not have anyone in your life. Sometimes that happens. I have, that I provide to my students, something in my office. I forgot where I found it, but that actually says the dangers of having everyone you know read your resume. And it is a serious danger because everyone has an opinion about a resume. Like I said in the beginning, resumes are heavily opinionated. So everyone's going to say, do this, don't do that, put this, don't do that, do this, do this, and they'll drive you nuts. What you should put, what you shouldn't put, what you should put, what you shouldn't put. So, and also, not only that, the big thing is if you give it to your brother, sister, mother, father, or friend, they are going to spend more than 15 to 20 seconds looking at it, right? No go. So if there is someone that you can have take a look at it, by all means, try and do that. If you don't have anyone, have a second eye look at it anyway for typographical errors and things like that. Always have it up to date and ready. You never, ever know. No job is guaranteed unless you own the business, all right? Never you write on your resume. If you change your phone number, if you move, don't you ever take a pen or a pencil, cross out the old information, and handwrite the new one. Never do that, okay? Keep a copy in your inbox, your email inbox. Nowadays, everyone has email. Your computer can crash. You can lose your flash drive. All of that can happen. I can't tell you how many people I've done resumes for in the past, and they've contacted me back. By any chance you have a copy? I lost it. My computer crashed. Keep a copy in your inbox. I mean, not to say that the email won't, crash or whatever it is, or even a Dropbox. But if you have it there, you're more likely to have access to it. And that's not the only reason. Another reason that I've seen happen is you never know, networking. True story, I have a nursing graduate a few years ago. She went to a birthday party. And she's at the birthday party talking to one of the dads, and they're talking, whatever it is. What do you do? What do you do for it? So she says to him that there's a specific hospital she trained at, and she'd love to work there and so forth. And he let her speak, and I'm hearing this from her. She told me this story. Lo and behold, he happened to be the CEO at that hospital. So remember, it's a local hospital. They're at a local birthday party. You never know. It's a small world. And he says to her, Monday morning, here's my secretary's name. Call her up. Tell her I said to send your resume. So she came to me panicking, not knowing what to do, and I told her, what you're going to do is exactly what he said. Before she knew he was the CEO of the place she wants to work, they were on a first name basis just talking. Hi, I'm Fred. Hi, I'm Mary. Okay? So I said to her, you're going to send your resume to his secretary just like he told you to, and you're going to say, hey, I saw Fred over the weekend and he told me to send my resume to you. His receptionist has no idea who you are. You could be his sister-in-law, his cousin. You never know. Networking is the key. All right? Now, I say that because of the email inbox. Hey, if I had my email right then and there, my phone with me, I would have said to him, hey, what's your email? What's your secretary's email? And I would have sent it right away from my inbox, just so he doesn't forget. Okay? Now, be consistent. Be consistent with your formatting, your font size and type, spacing, your job title, employer name, dates, bullets, paragraph, etc. Be consistent with the entire document, okay? Don't start in one font and go to another font. Don't start all the way to the left and then, don't have it all over the place. Make sure your formatting is one. Presentation, first impressions, all right? Presentation, and presentation makes a difference. And I make a big deal out of that because I remember years ago when I was a recruiter and I had so many resumes to deal with, the ones that just look a mess, garbage. They were filed in that bin on the side of my desk. Just threw them away. And I remember doing that. So, and I did that based on the presentation, which didn't mean the people weren't qualified for the jobs they were applying to. I was just going off visual presentation. So I make a big deal when I do resumes to make sure it's sharp and on point. Every word could be spelled incorrectly, but it looks so neat that somebody's going to start reading it, okay? How it looks visually, the way you provide it to an employer in person, the way you present it in person and electronically. Even the way you present it during your interview. If it's crushed, has coffee stains, I've seen it, not kidding, not joking. Folded, staple, again, don't staple, never use staple. So make sure your presentation on a whole is good. I'm checking the time. We're at almost 7:15, so I want to have respect for your time. This is set to end at 7:30 or so. Now, electronic submissions. This is important too. PC versus Mac. Okay, PC, you get MS Word. That's fine. But if you have a Mac, I suggest you send it as a PDF. Reason being, majority of places you're sending it to, chances are they have a PC. And the versions of Microsoft Word sometimes are different with Mac and PC. The way you did it on your Mac, it looks great, awesome. You may email it to someone who has a PC, and to them it's all distorted and crazy looking, where technically it didn't look like that to you, but the employer doesn't know you have a Mac. So I suggest transferring it into a PDF format, then sending it to the employer, okay? You can do that if you have a PC as well, but definitely when you have a Mac, that's my suggestion. Now, really quick, let's talk about some cover letters. Cover letters are recommended, but not always mandatory. It depends on your interviewer. You have people out there who love reading cover letters and just eat it all up. And there are people out there who look at resumes. I'm a resume kind of person because you can fluff up your cover letter all you want, blah, 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 make it nice and pretty. But at the end of the day, I want to see where you've been, what you've done, can you do my job? And I get that from the resume. So while cover letters are good and needed sometimes, the resume is the hardcore thing. Now, if you've been out of the workforce for a while, you need a cover letter explaining that. All right, if you have crazy gaps or different things, that's when you definitely need a cover letter explaining that. So really quick, all cover letter components, you have to have a header. We talked about that already, your contact information, all right, your date, and the employer's contact information. Again, this is a letter, right? Just like you'd write a professional letter, you'd put your contact information, you'd put the date, and whomever you're sending it to. So keep that in mind, the employer's name, the company name, the name of the individual you're sending it to, their address, okay? In the first paragraph, you're going to explain yourself, the position you're applying to. Immediately state why they're looking at this. They're looking at it because you are responding to their ad posted on Career Builders for administrative assistant. Okay? So you need to tell them right off the bat. You're applying to and where you saw it advertised. A lot of companies spend a lot of money on advertising, and they want to know what's working from what's not. So always help them out and tell them where you saw the ad. Also try to include an attention getter, a sentence so the employer wants to read more. And that's something that it depends on, your background and what's going on with you. Just make sure you say something that makes them, oh, okay, I'm interested. Let me continue reading. Paragraph 2, make a connection and sell yourself. This is your opportunity to tell them why you are the right person for the job, your accomplishments, and what you can do for them. Keep it short, though, and keep in mind, an employer wants to know what you can do for them, all right? Not what they can do for you, and not what you can share, what you could do for them. And don't go off on a tangent. Keep it short. Paragraph 3 is where you request an interview. Physically say it, all right? And include your contact information. Physically say that you would welcome the opportunity to meet with them in person to further discuss your qualifications. And tell them they can contact you via telephone, put your phone number, or via email, all right? Now, I found this quite funny. This is a cover letter that someone received, and they totally trashed it. They had a lot of corrections, and there were a lot of errors, but it's funny and it's not funny at the same time. And I think this is super important to highlight, because you may have something like this and think, I'm sure when this person sent this out, he or she thought it was on point, it was wonderful, it was perfect, but look how the employer chopped it up, okay? Starting with the very top, of course, for privacy reasons, the person's name, address, and phone number, that information was omitted, but they kept part of the email. And remember, the first thing I said before when we started was get a professional email, right? Look at the comment. Get a real email address. That's not the person's name. Now, the person put Dear Employer. What did I say before, right? I said the employer's contact information, and I also did say put the name of the person you're sending it to, the name of the company. Dear Employer. This person says, my name was in the ad. Use it. Okay? So look for names in the ad. And nowadays with the internet, you can find out the name easily of every HR person. Go to LinkedIn. Go to Google. If in doubt and you have no name, I always suggest people use Dear Hiring Manager, because hiring manager is a job title versus, if you send something to me and you say Dear Employer, I'm going to be like, what? If you don't know my name, it's Michelle Miller, and you say Dear Hiring Manager, and I know I'm the hiring manager, oh, okay, that must be me, right? But Dear Employer is not okay. And look at the size of that. See how big that is, right? So, if you guys want to take a look at that real quick, go ahead. But there are typos. There's just different things. This person put, they'll put 110% effort, and the comment was 100% is the most you can go. So while we get the comment that 110, I get it, but make sure you're not redundant. If you see here, redundant, communication. I see that all the time. Somewhere along the line, they said communication skills right here. Communication skills up here, communication skills right here, redundancy, okay? So be very mindful of that. And those are things that you can show someone else and just have them look for redundancy or misspelt words. I think there's an error down here. Okay. This person meant to put a calm manner or something like that, and they put the word clam, or calm, okay, a calm attitude. Strong leader and calm attitude is what this person meant to put, but they put clam attitude. And the employer said, what? Clams have attitudes? So, just be mindful, little things. And I just thought this was something that everyone can learn from. that while you think you did an awesome job, you have a power cover letter, this is awesome, wonderful, perfect, the employer may not. And this employer sure expressed herself. Here we go again. Communication skills again, third time. Okay? So be very, very careful. Be mindful when writing a cover letter. They can help you and they can hurt your chances. With that said, I thank you all so much for being here. I hope this information was quite helpful to you. My contact information is on the screen should you desire further consultations. And stay tuned for future virtual workshops such as this one. I would love to do one on interviewing. That one I dive into every aspect of it. I also have photos and different things of even your attire that you're wearing. So tell a friend to bless a friend. Bring a friend on with you next time. Be well. Have a wonderful weekend. God bless you all.